Hello there, everybody. It is me, No Name 117 Spore, back with the Road Waves 2, where we find out what happens when we are being restricted to only one gun caliber on our ships, on each ship, I should say. It's I always phrase that confusingly. There's sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. It's English. That is English, right? That is the English language I just spoke. Anyway, yes, we're back for episode 101. It is July of 1938. We have just concluded the war with America, and last episode, we unfortunately took some cruiser losses in terms of some Comus class cruisers. Actually, in Brilliant, last war was kind of brutal on our cruisers as we lost Forward, Adventure, um, Brilliant, Sybil, Pandora, Phaeton, Conquest, Royal Oak, and Argonaut. Yeah, that was kind of brutal. And the float plane tender Naiad was also mined, and then we lost all these carriers too. Yeah, that was kind of brutal. So I brought up, I have this little analysis thing I have up here. Just quickly made this in GIMP. So obviously, as you can see, we currently are at negative 17,300 per month. If we look at where that money is, 4,500 of it's in research. I'm not gonna really decrease that. That's research. I'm actually wanting to bring that up to 10 to 12% again. Naval aircraft we have 14,000, and construction we have 13,000, and so our aircraft are more than our construction, and we've got a lot of maintenance cost right now. For our monthly budget of 56,000. So yeah, total expenses 73,800. Our monthly budget is 56, 500, and we're gonna need to significantly cut down on the naval aircraft and the maintenance. So I have brought this up. So trim costs to rebuild in peacetime. So this is downsize the Air Force is one of the main things I want to do. That's very typical post-war, but I think I'm gonna go probably a little bit further with it here. I'll have to be looking at what air groups the various carriers have, which if we do that, I'll basically try to look at what the experience is on some of the torpedo bomber squadrons. Like that's a good torpedo bomber squadron. I think anyone's or yeah, any torpedo bombers with veteran are going to be kept or with like high scores. And we'll probably be moving around and keeping some of them active on ships, but most of the torpedo bomber squadrons are just going to be disbanded. So that is the first thing I want to do. The second thing I want to do is scrap the old 14-inch armed dreadnoughts. So that would be Dreadnought, Hood, Centurion, Rodney, Magnificent, Majestic, Jupiter, and Mars. These are slow ships and of very limited use, given their older 14-inch guns and, kind of bad armor. Um, if I need to keep some of them around, I would prefer to keep Mars around. And then I'm really not completely sure which would be better. The Centurions have a little bit more armor, but the Dreadnoughts have more speed. It would actually probably be preferable to keep Dreadnought and Hood around over Centurion and Rodney. And the Barflewers are just... They're basically European defense battleships. Their short range just holds them back so much from the sorts of engagements I've been fighting, and even against someone like, even if I want to fight like France or Germany, I don't think these are particularly useful vessels. So I think that the Barflewers are going to go first, then the Centurions, then the Dreadnoughts, and then Victorious if I can. Orion, I do intend on keeping, and that is actually on the analysis. Well, that is on the analysis sheet a bit later. So the other thing is scrap the 25-knot AVs. If we are scrolling down here, those would be Andromache, Apollo, and Iphigenia. Sirius, Terpsichore, and Scylla will be kept due to their higher speed. Uh, Although it looks like they are all going to have to go into refit here pretty soon. So yeah, current goal, scrap those ships as well. We'll do that in a moment. So return the rest of the fleet to Northern Europe and, mothball, reserve it, typical stuff. Other thing, so that is what I want to do in terms of like immediate cost cutting. Then we have the next step where this is going to be our build priority. So one thing is, I actually want to phase out the Comus class cruisers, which are here, for more foreign station corvettes. So these would be stuff like the original built Dependents as well as the Vianas and Cliftondales. The reason I am wanting to do this is we saw what happened to the Comus class when they got engaged in battle. You have a raider intercept a Comus class and it just dies. And that happened multiple times. In Comus class, we're getting assigned as escorts multiple times. And the problem is them being light cruisers on foreign station is just creating those sorts of problems. And there's just not much I can do about it. Other than not have them in active sea zones, and that's really difficult to do. So, yeah, Comus class cruisers are going to be phased out. This will probably be a gradual process where I'm devoting a portion of my budget to doing that, but it will definitely be a process where the Comus class cruisers are going to get phased out, and we'll be stuck basically with actually good light cruisers. Build a couple more heavy cruisers. We definitely lacked modern heavy cruisers. The Ariadne and Europa are very good. The problem is they are only getting assigned as carrier escorts. So we probably do want some form of replacement for the Lost Royal Oak. And that would probably be something more modern with like 9, 10-inch guns. Or we could go up to the full, like maybe even 12. Nah, we could go to the full 12, 10-inch guns. Or we could do a modernized, Ariadne Europa sort of design where it's kind of like a sub-capital. Or, stick more in that 20,000, 21,000 ton range. I want to build more light cruisers. We did suffer significant losses to our light cruiser force in that war, particularly anti-aircraft light cruisers. We are currently already working on this with the Rainbow class, or with the first two Rainbows completed and a third one building, as well as the Melampus class being a follow-on. So that is one thing I need to do. Limited production ASW destroyers plus conversions. So we do need basically the Tartar class. We do probably want more ASW destroyers, because the US decided to spam out subs. So if we wind up at war with them again, that's a problem. Russia's spamming subs. France has a lot of subs in service. Um, oh dear, oh dear. Everyone right now has a lot of subs except for us, or is building a lot of subs. So I'm gonna increase that in priority. Now, that's not a limited production run. We need anti-submarine warfare destroyers, and probably to convert any 900 tonners or below into them, or any remaining 900 tonners or below. Get a couple more large carriers and decrease battleship production would be the final thing. One issue right now is that the carriers we are building are not large carriers. I mean, the Estrelas are big, but like they don't have a lot of planes. They only carry 59 planes, and then the Unicorns are basically light carrier. Well, not light carriers. They're in between like a, fleet carrier and a light carrier, more like a Soryu, is the way I describe them. So we're gonna get those done, but there is gonna be a focus on getting more larger carriers, more like the Indefatigable or the Formidables. I guess the now sunk Ark Royal. Uh, Courageous and Glorious are also gonna need a refit too, and I'm probably gonna make their visual look like it's a flat flight deck now. So, in terms of rebuilds, the first rebuild I'm considering doing, and I'm very strongly considering doing this, is taking the Peak class and rebuilding them into anti-aircraft cruisers. We have 4 of the Peak class in service. These are 30, these cruisers got a speed boost, so I did not want to do a machinery refit to get them up to, the same guns on like a Venus or something. So the optimal thought here is to go with twin 5-inch turrets. Or yeah, probably twin 5 or a bunch of twin 5-inch turrets, just on top of the ship, and just try to see if I can get a good anti-aircraft cruiser out of these, or at least a decent one. Um, and I was considering an engine rebuild on the newly commissioning Estrella class because I'm pretty certain that I can get more. I can get these up to 26 knots, and I'm pretty certain I can get more room for more aircraft. That is a weak consideration. That is something I'm gonna have to look into. I'm definitely gonna look into it and see where the math checks out. But there is a strong possibility of instead of doing that, I just go ahead and build, an additional large carrier because engine rebuilds are expensive, and I think that would be uh possibly more worth the money. And then the thing I was saving up with Orion is the consideration to rebuild Orion into a 23 knot bulged battleship. So if we actually open Orion for a rebuild right now, and I do a replace machinery, bring her up to coal, bring her up to 26 knots, and bulge her, we are very close to being able to pull this off. We are exceptionally close to this being viable. So, frankly, it is a strong thought about trying to refit Orion into this sort of ship. And basically giving her a big rebuild because this would be a 23 knot vessel with TPS 1. That would be pretty close to compatible with the Howe class. Um, and we might be able to get Orion that refit within the next, 3 years, maybe like 3 years on from now. That is possible, and that it would be a slow battleship, but it would still be fairly viable, especially if we're doing like a gun refit. And then the very last thing, reconsider CV loadouts. If we look at our air groups, our CVs were definitely, very torpedo bomber based, but as other nations begin introducing more CVs into service and air bases get larger, we're probably going to need to focus a little bit more on our fighter complements. And yeah, it is. We'll take a look at how to reconfigure stuff. But yeah, that'll be part of the plan, deciding, you know, how our CV squadrons are going to look going forward. So, there's the analysis, bringing it up one last time for what we need to do, or what vaguely we need to do, and frankly, let's get into it. So, Farfluers, scrap. Centurions, scrap. Dreadnoughts, scrap. Victorious. Alright, we can wait a while. Okay, so the game will not let me scrap Victorious yet. We need to have 8 operational battleships. I'm also not going to be scrapping Indomitable or the Lions. I've just made that decision. Indomitable can be part of a raiding force, like she was in this war. Something where she goes, somewhere else and just wreaks havoc. So you guys move to Northern Europe. Temporarily, the Charybdis class cruisers are going to be put on foreign station. And any Comus class cruiser in active fleet need to go back to foreign station. Move ships to Northern Europe. Move ships to Northern Europe. Move ship to Northern Europe. Alright. The Courageous and Glorious are going to need a refit. I think that might be done after I move them back to Northern Europe. Move ships to Northern Europe. Rainbow can go into the reserve fleet. Move ships to Northern Europe. Oh, hold on. Let me just... Yeah, let's move these guys to Northern Europe right now. Move these guys to Northern Europe. Ark Royal, go to Northern Europe. Hermes, go to Northern Europe. You go to Northern Europe, and you go to Northern Europe. Alright, so for the Phoebe class, I want the 25 knotters scrapped. The 26 knotters are going to move to Northern Europe. In the med right now, we do have the Foresters. I think I am going to swap those out for a different set of destroyers. The Defenders need a rebuild. I think I will move the Lances into the Mediterranean to replace the Foresters over there. I will just immediately send these in for a rebuild so we can get dual purpose guns, we can get an improved director. The AA director is now going to matter. I'm going to get rid of the increased depth charge storage and get K guns instead, and then get rid of the side torpedo tube mounts. And then get the extra gun so we have a actually decent heavy anti-aircraft factor. Alright. So these are going to need rebuilds at probably now, actually. Just send them in. I think it's just... Okay, you know, I will get the dual purpose. I don't think we need a director on these, but getting some heavy anti-aircraft is probably helpful. To a small extent. Although these are mainly mine sweepers. So yeah, their ASW does get a little bit more limited. But you know, I'm willing to accept that. These guys should be pulled back. Move ship to Northern Europe. Move all these to Northern Europe. Fire Drakes go into the reserve fleet. Move all these ships to Northern Europe. Move all these ships to Northern Europe. Loch Navars go into the reserve. Nemesis will be mothballed. Move those ships to Northern Europe. Move these ships to Northern Europe. Move the victors to Northern Europe. I'm gonna mothball those, and then all those are mothballed. So those are right now on foreign station. And we'll probably have to pull these off of foreign station at some point. Start just, building more ships to do so. Do we have anything in Northern Europe right now? Yeah, you're in Northern Europe. You are in Northern Europe. I think Spartiate will be mothballed. Algiers is one of the better two of that class, but I think for the heavy cruisers, I'll just keep those ones in service and the Andromeda's mothballed. Yeah, everything in Northern Europe everything, yeah, is either returning to Northern Europe or like already mothballed, except some of the cruisers, right? Yeah, you should move back to Northern Europe. Nerva. Alright, so that saved us some on maintenance. We got it down. Well, okay, increased construction, but it did save us on maintenance. We got it down about 4,000, and that's going to decrease even further, and hopefully allow us to continue to build our battleship. Aircraft type wise, torpedo bombers or new torpedo bomber is in progress. So I'm just going to start disbanding squadrons. I think mm, I'm going to keep a template at Rossif, but I'm not going to have that template anywhere else. Okay. So already saving us on some money. Let's start reserving some of our airfields. Actually, let's just make sure that all of our airfields are reserved. Just to like kind of make sure that we're not spending any additional money on anything. Saipan, yeah, Saipan's aircraft will just be disbanded. Yeah, now we're at the point of instead of losing all of our money in one turn, being able to survive one turn, we're now at the point where we can survive 3. Well, Guam had a 60 aircraft base. Yeah, America had good aircraft. So these torpedo bombers scored 2 hits. Those ones are veteran as well. The rest of these will be disbanded. Although, yeah, we'll keep those squadrons around. Nothing at St. John's did anything, so disband. Hamilton really didn't do anything, even though we have a group which is veteran. Okay, so I'll keep those flying boats at Kingston around. Port of Spain. Yeah, we're gonna disband that flying boat squadron too. So yeah, these flying boats are going to be moved back home. I actually might disband Ross's squadrons. I will. So I'm gonna put all those in Harwick. And then, yeah, keep those flying boats active. Now, here are the dive bomber squadrons I was going to put on my carriers, and those are still going to get put on my carriers. So, okay, CVL Biters planes actually do have a score. Hermes doesn't. I think I will be disbanding Hermes' squadrons. Courageous's torpedo bomber squadrons have kills. All of Glorious's squadrons have kills. Eagles don't. So Eagle squadrons are, for now, going to just get disbanded. I think any group which doesn't have a score is just going to get disbanded. Okay. So that actually leaves a lot of the torpedo bombers still up. Yeah, Courageous's fighters. Okay. I don't think Biter should be equipped with this sort of squadron. I think I will keep Biter on torpedo bombers. But the number is not going to be 20 anymore. We're going to go down to 12. And then we're going to add an additional group of 11 fighters to Biter. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this torpedo bomber squadron. I'm going to get rid of the ones with generally less overall damage. I'll keep some fighter squadrons still around. But yeah, these two on Gibraltar will go away. I think this torpedo bomber squadron will go away. I'll get rid of these two. And then I'll get rid of these two on Argus. So I'm gonna see, what I'm gonna try to do is I'm going to try to get, oh, formidable capacity exceeded. Yeah, change number to 12. Oh wait, no, hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna disband that fighter squadron. I think you ones with 2 kills get disbanded. I will disband this fighter squadron. Alright, so Formidable will stay with a full aircraft load. I think Indefatigable and Gibraltar will also have a full aircraft load. so that's 3 torpedo bombers, fighter, and then fighter to Gibraltar. Change number to 6. No, wait, no, cancel. Um, what I will do is I will take. No, I'm gonna move that fighter group of 12. Now for Argus. Okay, so Argus's other fighter group will be moved to Gibraltar. And I'm trying to think what carriers do I want to be like CV killers and which ones do I want to be battleship killers. I think I'm gonna have the CV carriers be the bigger ones, so the Indefatigables will be carrier killers. Maybe Eagle will also be a carrier killer group. So this means that 2 of the torpedo bombers from each ship are going to be moved to a different ship. In this case, Colossus. Um, Argus's remaining fighter squadron will be moved over there. Actually, no. That will be moved over to Colossus. The other carriers are going to have, I believe, 1 dive bomber and 2 torpedo bombers on them. I think that torpedo bomber is going to go to Argus then. So these 2 dive bomber squadrons are going to go to Gibraltar. Okay, so I feel like what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna complete the rest of the squadrons on these ships other than, yeah, I'm just not. We'll have Formidable be fully ready. Okay, so Courageous and Glorious. Okay, so change role. That will be a dive bomber squadron now. Change role. You will now be a dive bomber squadron. And we're gonna reduce the number of them. Change number down to 12 of each. And then you know what? We'll have an extra torpedo bomber. Okay, so there we go. Courageous and Glorious now have their full loadouts. No, honestly, maybe I should take their dive and torpedo bomber squadron up to 16 and move their fight. Yeah, I'll do that. Actually, I think. Um, Courageous will keep her template. I think Glorious is just going to give her non-dive or non-torpedo bombers to other groups. In this case, probably to um, Indefatigable. Change number is that 14? That would be 16 actually. And then we will grab a torpedo bomber squadron off of Argus. Move that to indefatigable. There we go. So Glorious will just... Actually, no, Glorious will be empty for now. That will be moved to Argus and changed into a 16 torpedo bomber squadron. As everything gets pulled back. So I think Courageous is probably going to get mothballed. All the ships are going to get mothballed. But yeah, now we have an actually sustainable cost. I do also need to build more subs. And I think I will get more... Yeah. We'll start rebuilding the sub fleet a little bit. These shouldn't take too long to build, and everything will be able to be returned back and mothballed. So, I think that's the general plan. I will go one turn. We compiled a study of enemy aircraft losses during the total war. We shot down 126, 56% were by fighters, 25% were by other aircraft, 9 by heavy anti-aircraft, 6 by medium, or 4 by medium, and 6 by light. Okay, most everything is back home, so let's just start reserving everything. We already have our money back. Resume construction on Redoubtable. Um, Mothball Leopard, Mothball Lion. Okay, so I would want half of our battleships mothballed, so that will be Howe and Collingwood will also be mothballed. And in terms of our battle cruisers, I would want probably 5 of them mothballed, so that will be the Illustrious as mothballed. And then Indomitable when she gets back. I guess we will mothball King Alfred as well for the heavy cruisers. Or, yeah, heavy cruisers, armored cruisers. Those guys are now in foreign station. Those guys are back. So for now, mothball Foresight. I think we do need to... We'll do that next time for the Courageouses. Hermes... Oh, Hermes is still transiting home. Those all need rebuild. Mothball Biter... Hold on. We're going to mothball Ark Royal and reserve the rest of them. And we'll do a rebuild on those, so yeah, nothing much is going to change there. I will reserve you, but for now, I think the back half of you gets mothballed plus forward. Those are mothballed. Those are active as they should be. Some of the stuff here is going to have to be rebuilt. All those go in the reserve fleet. You need to go in foreign station. Mothball those. And bring research back up to 10%. And look at all the money we now have. With stuff, still returning. So I think next episode we will be designing a replacement for the Comus class. Probably something derived from the Cliftondale, maybe a little larger. I believe, yeah, 2 Cliftondales would be 1 Comus. So we're gonna have to do some math on that and build those in batches. That will be a big priority. Getting the little mine or the coastal patrol the foreign station vessels, on duty. And we'll also probably want to think about pulling all of these guys off of foreign station too. Um, although the victors are going into. Wait, no. I have one group going in the med, right? Yeah. The lances will stay in the Mediterranean. And then these will be ASW destroyers. So, thank you everyone for watching. This has been me, Nona117 Spore. I will see you next time. Links to my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter are down below if you're interested in any of those things. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, alright. Bye!